King Arthur is a leader when it comes to melee attacks and using everything melee, especially when he has his sword in his hand. When activated, his ability increases the damage inflicted by your melee attacks and those of your nearby teammates, in addition to reducing your fear levels. If Lord Arthur has a sword, he inflicts extra damage. So with King Arthur, you want to keep his sword in his hand at all times. Even if you find a rare, or usually if you find an epic or a rare, if you find something legendary, maybe switch it up for your common sword. But if you have a sword, keep it, because then you're inflicting extra damage. I've even found that when I've attacked some enemies before they have a red skull over their head, with one of the finishers that are not supposed to finish, but end up finishing them anyway because of the extra damage from his sword. So definitely keep your sword in your hand with Arthur. He is a melee beast. I find that with Arthur, personally, if you don't have another warrior in your party, or at least somebody that's geared with melee, he feels a little empty to use by himself. So definitely I would say only pick him if you have a team that is kind of geared up towards melee. Ask your team members if they are geared up toward melee or ranged, because if you're by yourself with him as a leader and you're the only one strengthed up in melee, he'll be okay, but he feels very middle of the road when it comes to using him as a melee beast. So definitely take your team into consideration with him. His next passive ability is for heavy attacks. It increases damage within your radius when you use your ability for heavy attacks, followed up by light attacks for the next one. And this is all for you and your teammates. So there you got heavy, light attacks, and then moving quickly into his last one, Fuel the Fire. If you perform a finisher while the Lord's Wrath is active, the ability lasts longer. So you can see all of his stuff is very hardcore melee, and that's why it's very important for you to have melee teammates. This is how you're going to have the structure of your team be hardcore in melee. If everybody is ranged, for example, or support, you're going to be kind of a lone gunner with your melee attacks. Here's my build that I have with him, the build that I currently have. I need to try some others with him and see how well-rounded he is. But the current build is focused on his aura being as big as it can be, and his health and shields being as strong as they can be, along with his melee damage being maxed out with a little bit of ranged balance bar. Just in case he needs to use a gun, he can knock their balance bar a little bit, take a shot before running in with some melee hits, in case he needs to have that quick distance before moving in. And that's the current build I have on him. He's the only survivor that I've come across now that you really have to consider the rest of the team. Everybody else has been kind of versatile with how they are, but he is really one that if you just kind of go in yourself and nobody else is really geared into melee, he might have a little bit of a hard time depending on how you get singled out in a match. But if you have everybody melee and everybody's going in and attacking the possessed and the bosses, they'll die so fast, it's ridiculous. And that is it on Arthur. Pretty simple to use. It's all just melee with him. So if you love melee and you don't mind holding a sword most of the time, then he is definitely the pick, the one to go to. The last one before we get into the ashes is Henry the Red. I'll see you guys later in the next video. Bye-bye.